The snow started before the sun even thought about leaving. Thick, heavy flakes fell like a slow apology from the sky. Beautiful, if you weren't trying to drive through it. Jack Halpern, a 39-year-old insurance salesman from Boston, was not feeling poetic about it. He'd been on the road for 4 hours, driving toward Albany to figure out his life, which, in truth, meant escaping it for a few days before anyone noticed. His GPS voice had been confident, at least until it wasn't. Now the screen flashed, recalculating, like a taunt from the universe. The Vermont highway that had seemed charming in daylight was now a shimmering, ice-crusted snake, twisting through forests that looked like they belonged on Christmas cards or true crime documentaries. Jack's car, a weary gray Honda Civic, hummed its last protest and coughed into silence near a wooden sign that read, "Welcome to Maple Hill, population 1,842 and one snowman, seasonal." "Great," Jack muttered, slapping the steering wheel. Population, one idiot who trusted Google Maps. He checked his phone, 1 bar, then none. The heater gave its final gasp, like a smoker trying to sprint. Jack shoved his hands in his coat pockets, stared at the darkening road, and felt the cold creep through the seams of his optimism. There are nights that test your patience. Then there are nights that test your cell signal, your sanity, and your ability to find warmth in a town that doesn't even have Uber. Jack stepped out, crunching into snow that reached his ankles. The air bit his cheeks sharp enough to remind him he was alive. Through the haze, a flicker of yellow glowed, a sign, faint but certain, Rita's Diner. He trudged toward it, boots squeaking, muttering, "Please have coffee. Or whiskey. Or both." Inside, the diner looked like the inside of a Norman Rockwell painting that had seen better days. Checkerboard floor, chrome stools, a jukebox that seemed permanently stuck on old country hits. A bell jingled as Jack entered, letting in a slice of icy air. Behind the counter stood Rita Caldwell, mid-50s, red sweater, hair in a messy bun that said, "I've seen worse." She glanced up from wiping a mug. "Even an stranger. You look like a snowman that gave up halfway." Jack laughed weakly. "My car died. So did half this town's patience for winter," she said, pouring him coffee before he asked. "Sit. You'll thaw before you cry." He sat, hands wrapped around the mug like it was salvation. The warmth spread, and for the first time all day, something inside him eased. At the corner booth sat Eddie Trent, an older man with a mustache that deserved its own zip code. He was telling Maya Lee, the young waitress tuning her guitar between orders, about how he once delivered mail during the blizzard of '87, barefoot, uphill, both ways. "Don't let him fool you," Rita said over her shoulder. "He barely made it down his driveway that year." "Fake news," Eddie replied, tapping his cup. Maya smiled at Jack. "Rough night, huh?" Jack sighed. "Car broke down. Phone's dead. I think I took a wrong turn about 5 life choices ago." "That's a common route through Maple Hill," she said. "Coffee's cheaper than therapy here." The storm thickened outside, coating the diner windows in swirling white. The neon sign buzzed. Rita turned up the radio. Static, then a weatherman's voice announcing a winter emergency. "Looks like you're stuck," she said, sliding him a slice of pie. "Storm like this, roads won't open till morning." Jack exhaled, long and resigned. "Guess I'll call a tow truck tomorrow. Assuming civilization still exists." Eddie leaned over. "Don't worry, son. The world ends every February up here. Then we shovel it back together by March." The bell above the door jingled again. Tommy Raines, a 12-year-old in a puffy orange jacket, stomped in with snow clinging to his hat. He was live streaming to an audience of approximately 7 followers. "Yo, Maple Hill Blizzard, Day 1. I found a stranded outsider." He panned his phone toward Jack. "Delete that," Jack said, half laughing. Tommy grinned. "You're trending, mister." Rita rolled her eyes. "Tommy, put that thing away before I trend you out the door." The diner filled with laughter, the kind that sticks, warm and ridiculous. Funny thing about small towns, they can smell a stranger faster than coffee brews. But they also know when someone's too cold to keep their distance. As hours passed, the snowstorm became a full whiteout. The diner lights flickered once, twice, then darkness swallowed the room. A collective groan rose from every booth. Rita grabbed a flashlight from under the counter. "Welcome to the Great Vermont Blackout," she declared. Maya lit a candle at each table. Eddie found an old lantern. Tommy turned his phone flashlight on and made shadow puppets on the wall, a rabbit, then what looked suspiciously like a chicken. Jack chuckled. "So this is how civilization ends. With a chicken shadow and bad coffee." Rita smirked. Don't knock my coffee. It's kept marriages alive. You have coffee that's strong. Stronger, she said. The night deepened. Outside, snow piled against the windows. Inside, laughter filled the dark. Jack found himself sharing stories about his failed marriage, his dead-end job, the day he realized his GPS voice sounded more confident than he felt. Rita listened, polishing silverware like a bartender of secrets. Honey, you can't steer through life looking in the rearview. That's how people crash. Eddie chimed in, or end up here. Everyone laughed, and for a brief, flickering moment, the diner felt like the center of the universe. Maya strummed her guitar softly, singing under her breath. Sun's asleep, but the moon's on guard. Sometimes you just drive too far. But even lost roads lead to light. Jack leaned back, closing his eyes. The song, the voices, the warmth, it was everything he hadn't realized he missed. The lights blinked once more, then came back on. The room erupted in mock applause. Rita winked. Told you, power always comes back, just gotta wait it out. Jack smiled. Guess that's life, huh? Rita poured him a refill. You can't curse the dark, honey. You light something. He looked around, at these strangers who somehow felt like old friends, and felt something shift inside. Sometimes the longest nights don't end when the lights turn on. They end when you realize you weren't alone in the dark. Snow still fell outside, softer now, like an exhale. Jack stared through the window, the diner lights glowing against the storm, and for the first time in months, he didn't feel lost. He just felt here. He finished his pie, wiped his hands, and smiled to himself. Maybe this wrong turn wasn't such a mistake after all. Outside, a plow truck rumbled past, headlights scattering light across the snowy street. Inside, the jukebox finally clicked to life, Elvis singing, Blue Moon of Kentucky. The night wasn't over, but it was no longer cold. The snow had stopped. Dawn crept over Maple Hill, brushing the pine-studded hills with pale gold light. The kind of sunrise that makes a man think maybe he's not completely doomed, even if his shoes are soaked through. Jack Halpern stirred on the vinyl bench at Rita's diner, the lingering aroma of coffee and pie warming the corners of his frozen mind. Outside, the world gleamed white, every branch weighted with snow, every roof capped with powdered sugar. Jack rubbed his eyes and stretched. He was still in Maple Hill. His car had not magically repaired itself overnight. His phone still refused to acknowledge existence beyond a single blink of service. And yet, somehow, he felt awake in a way he hadn't for months. Sometimes the night has to get very, very dark before the sun decides to matter. And sometimes, you realize that the sun isn't just a thing in the sky, it's a thing in the people around you. He opened the diner door. The air hit him with a crisp sting. Shards of frost sparkled on the roads like crushed diamonds. From across the street, children with flushed cheeks and bright scarves raced past, sleds bouncing. In the distance, Eddie Trent, the retired mailman, scowled at the snowbank like it personally offended him. Morning, stranger, Eddie called. Hope you slept better than you're driving. Jack grinned. Better, at least no car tried to eat me. From behind the diner counter, Rita placed a steaming pot of coffee in front of him. Morning, Jack. You up for helping, or you just here for hero coffee? Jack sipped. The warmth traveled like a small victory. Depends on what needs doing. You'll know soon enough, she said, smirking. The town had already begun its morning rhythm. Maple Hill's residents emerged from their homes with shovels, brooms, and snowblowers, a parade of wool hats, puffy jackets, and mismatched mittens. Children on sleds navigated between adults, sometimes accidentally toppling snowbanks or sliding into neighbors. The sound of laughter, shouts, and scraping metal filled the street. Jack grabbed a shovel Rita handed him and followed the parade. He stumbled twice over frozen steps, earning smirks and chuckles from Marjorie and Bill Parsons, the octogenarian hardware store owners. Son, Marjorie said, you shovel like my nephew tries to play hockey, chaotic, but entertaining. Bill added, and somehow, it works. Jack laughed, shaking snow from his coat. He realized he was enjoying himself, really enjoying himself, for the first time in years. There's a funny thing about mornings after long nights, they don't care about your failures. They just exist, and if you're lucky, they drag you along. By mid-morning, the town had adopted Jack. He wasn't an outsider anymore. He helped Maya Lee lift boards onto the diner roof where a patch of ice had sheared off during the storm. Jack tried to hammer a nail, missed twice, and hit his thumb once. He yelped, and everyone laughed. See, Maya said, holding her phone up. That's viral content. Disaster Handyman Edition. Jack groaned but laughed, too. I'll take fame over pain next time. Rita shouted from below. Stop dancing with the hammer and just drive the nail, soldier. Even Eddie wandered over, pretending to supervise but actually just throwing snowballs at the kids. Jack caught one, missed on purpose, and Eddie barked with laughter. The sun rose higher, melting the icy streets, revealing Maple Hill's charm in full. Houses with peeling paint and crooked chimneys looked like storybook cottages. Smoke curled from chimneys. Flags hung crookedly on porches. Every house had its quirks, and every resident had a story. Jack realized something profound. Life didn't have to be perfect to feel whole. It just had to be lived. Around noon, Jack, Maya, and Tommy organized an impromptu fundraiser to fix Rita's diner roof. Tommy recorded clips for TikTok, Maya sang a few lines of her song, After Dark Night, and Jack held a makeshift sign reading, Shovels Needed. Free laughs included. Passersby laughed at his awkward attempts at choreography, but they joined anyway. Marjorie and Bill handed out hot cocoa, kids drew snow suns on the sidewalk, and neighbors swapped jokes about who had the slipperiest driveway. Jack found himself smiling uncontrollably. He was no longer a visitor, he was a participant. Every slip, every shout, every shared moment felt like a stitch in the fabric of the town, and in him. Funny how a broken car, a bad GPS, and a snowstorm can teach a man more about warmth than 1,000 heated offices ever could. By mid-afternoon, the Sunrise Festival had begun, a small, goofy gathering celebrating the thaw. String lights hung from telephone poles. A small stage had been set up on Main Street. Maya sang her song fully, Jack clapping awkwardly but sincerely, and Eddie danced like no one was watching, which, thankfully, was mostly true. Rita handed Jack a broom and a mop. Time to sweep up your gratitude, Halpern. The floor's a mess of snow, spilled coffee, and, well, you. Jack shook his head but obeyed, sweeping with exaggerated flair. A child ran past, slipping, and Jack caught him mid-fall, almost toppling into a snowbank himself. The crowd laughed, cheers erupting. Jack bowed, joking, I meant to do that. Acrobatics are optional here. As afternoon faded into evening, Jack walked to the edge of town with a cup of cocoa. The sun lingered low, golden and forgiving. He glanced back at Maple Hill, the town alive with chatter, music, laughter, and the smell of freshly baked bread from the diner. He thought about the night before, about how cold, dark, and lonely he had felt. And now, here he was, not just surviving the snowstorm but thriving in it, embraced by a community he hadn't meant to meet. Sometimes the darkest night isn't an end. It's just the prologue to a sunrise you never expected. And sometimes, that sunrise isn't in the sky. It's in the people who reach out, the laughter you share, and the mistakes you turn into stories. Jack returned to the diner for the closing moment of the festival. Rita, hands on hips, grinned at him. Well, Jack, you survived your first Maple Hill day. Consider yourself officially adopted. Jack laughed, raising his cup in a toast. To wrong turns and sunrises, he said. The crowd cheered. Children waved. Maya strummed a final chord. The sky glowed in streaks of gold and pink, the last of the snow glimmering under morning's light. No night lasts forever. No storm, no matter how fierce, can outshine the rising sun. Sometimes, you only find it when you stop running, when you slip on the ice, spill your coffee, and let the town, or life, show you that warmth was there all along. And if you're lucky, you even laugh while it happens. Jack took a deep breath, sipping his cocoa, and smiled. Maple Hill wasn't just a wrong turn on a snowed-in highway. It was exactly where he needed to be.
Like and subscribe if you want to be happy and motivate.